One of the most challenging tasks in madrasa or the school are preparing an exams report card, which usually requires an extreme amount of teachers or volunteers' time to produce one, and in most cases requires a lot of Excel work. More so if the report cards are not done right or are missing an important information, it first of all impacts the madrasa image, and secondly, it's unfair to the students who really worked up hard throughout the year, as well as the parents also desperately want to know how did their child perform. Let's see how effectively a Dean solution resolves these issues for you. Today we will run through a progress report from our reports collection. There are multiple scenarios that this report will address, so let's look at them one by one. Now before we run into those scenarios, I'm assuming the madrasa or the school logo is up to date. The exam marks are updated for each child either from the Dean app or web. The exams are locked down from any further modifications, and the assignments were regularly created in a Dean for your classes and marked throughout the term. So let's look at the scenario 1 where an administrator wants to run a midterm exam report based on the following criteria. Now note the class, the exam name, and the terms are for the report's demonstration purpose only. You will choose an actual when running this report. Also note the classwork and the exam mark will be weighted based on the number specified here, which in our case is 25 and 20 for this example. So let's try and produce the midterm exam report from the Dean's web portal, which is the portal.ad-din.ca. Now I'm here on my dashboard, and in order for me to run this report, I have to expand this menu by clicking on these three lines on the top left corner and just go up to the reporting. Select your organization and scroll at the very bottom, and under the exam reports collection, click on the progress report. So let's enter the sample criteria to generate the midterm exam report. Now the report name, I'll type in the midterm exam report. And in the class, I have a couple of sample classes, so I'll select the full-time HIFS FP, and up here. Now the exam groups I'll explain once the report is generated. We have two exam groups available in which we can select the different exams to manipulate the data and generate a meaningful report. So for now, for this particular example, for the midterm exam, I'm just going to keep the exam one exam group, and let's see how the report comes up. So here I'm just going to type up midterm because I'm generating the exam report for the midterm. And up here I have some sample data between the February 4th until the February 8th. And I'm going to keep the weighted average, the weighted mark out of the 25 for the exam and for the class 20. And here I'm selecting the midterm exam FP. And up here I'm just going to drop some notes from my clipboard and some free flow text. And I'm just simply going to click on the view report, and there we go, we have the first report, and I'm just going to click on the print current. So up here we have the midterm exam report, and the logo is coming from your organization, your madrasa name and your address is coming from your organization. On the upper left, right, we got the students details where the student's name, the address, the phone number, date that the report was run, and the term that we selected, and the class that we selected, and who's the teacher on that class, the class teacher, and within the term that we selected, how many days the student was absent and how many times the student was late. Now the midterm here is the group name that you define on the progress report criteria. The subjects are all coming from the exam that you configured within the Dean for your organization. The classwork is out of 20, it's weighted at the 20. So what is it doing? It's adding up all the assignment marks between these two date ranges, and basically the term that you have selected, and converting it to 20, and then averaging at the up here at the bottom. Same goes for the exam. It's weighted at the 25%. So it's converting the exam marks into 25 and final marks is out of 45 for the midterm. So that means for the final term you're left with 55. So it's up to you how you want to define these weights and configure your report. Now the percentage out of 100, so basically the final marks are getting converted back into hundreds, and the total average that you're getting up here is 85% overall for the midterm, and the grade is defined under the grades in solution, and based on the grade ranges, the system will automatically pick the grade for you here. So 85% falls in between the 85 and 89.99, hence the grade is A for this particular student for the midterm progress. Now the notes here is coming from the criteria that we defined when we executed the progress report, so as the free text flow, which is going up here at the bottom. You can save this report as a PDF and distribute via email, or you can even print it afterwards and save it for your records. These reports are not saved in our system permanently. They are produced as and when needed. So similar to the midterm exam, an administrator wants to run a final exam report based on the following criteria. An administrator can include or exclude the classwork from the report card. Now again, up here, class, the exam name, and the terms are for the report's demonstration purpose only. You will be choosing an actual when you run this report for your organization. So let's look at it more practically. I'm going back up here, and here now, earlier we wrote the midterm, and instead of the midterm, now we're going to write the final exam progress report. And I have multiple classes here. I'm just going to select the one that I have some demo data, and here in the exam group, again, since I'm generating the report for the final exam only, I'm just going to keep one exam group and type up the final exam and select the term from, let's say, March 4th to the March 8th, where I have some dummy data. And here now, this time I'm going to keep the weight for the exam out of 30 and for the classwork out of 25. And earlier we chose the midterm exam, and this time we are going to choose the final exam. And again, for the notes, we will be just dropping some notes from my clipboard here. And click on the view report. And now we have the final exam report. I just clicked on the print currents to see how the report looks. And so similar to what we saw earlier for the midterm, now we have the final exam progress report. All the criterias, everything we chose, it's quite similar to the midterm. It all depends as to which exam you select to generate the progress report. Now let's look at a little complex scenario here where an administrator wants to run a midterm and a final exam combined report based on the following criteria. An administrator can include or exclude the classwork from the report card. So up here in this scenario 3, we are going to include the two exams. One is the midterm exam and one for the final exam for the same class, and generate a combined report based on the weights that we have defined here for the two different terms. So let's look at it more practically how it's going to function. So up here I'm going to write, since we are generating this for the final exam, I'm just going to write the final, or just gonna call it a progress report. And here I have the one class, and now here we are going to have two groups, one for the midterm and one for the final. Now you will get much better understanding onto how this group will function when the report gets generated. So first I'm going to type the midterm, and I'm going to select the midterm term. in which I have some dummy data, and then based on the weight that we have defined, I'm going to type that up here. So I'm going to include the midterm in the first group, and I'm going to click on add exam group. Now this one here, for this exam group, I'm just going to name it the final exam, and for this I'm going to pick a different term in which I have some dummy data, and here the weight for the exam, I'm making it 30 so that it totals up to 100%. And here I'm selecting another exam, which is the final exam. So now I have two groups, one for the midterm, one for the final. In the midterm, I have the term selected, which is basically the midterm's term, and for the final I have the finals term selected, and the weights as we have seen in our PowerPoint as to what criteria, based on what criteria we wanted to generate the report. And under the exam, selected exam, for this particular group I have selected the midterm, and for this particular group I have selected the final. Now for the notes and free text, I'm going to put something back again from my clipboard. And click on view report when ready. So now I'm just going to click on the print current so that we can see the report in more holistic view. So as you can see here, all the other components that came along, if you see the term, it started with the first date of the midterm and the last date of the final. So that's your whole term for the overall progress report. And within that term, how many days the student was absent and how many days the student was late. As well as the exam group 1 got a line on the left called midterm, and the exam group 2, which is the final exam, got a line on the right. And everything goes along, such as the classwork out of 20, so it's getting converted. So all those classwork for the midterm term get accumulated or get totaled up and then converted back into the 20, and so as for the exam. And so for the midterm, the student achieved A, and for the final exam, the student achieved A minus. And overall, for the final and midterm, the student got 82.94, which is A minus. So that's how you generate the final exam, or the combined report for the midterm and the final exam. Now let's look at the much more complex scenario where a student belongs to two classes or for the same course. Now, in this situation, there will be two midterm exams and two final exams to be combined to generate the final progress report. In an Addin solution, a student can only belong to one class section for a particular class. But an organization in this scenario, in much more complex scenario like this, has their class set up such a way that they have the first period and second period, but both period belongs to the same class. The subjects taught are also different in both periods. Students in class section 1 in the class section of the first period are also different in the class section of the second period, so as the teacher. Yet the class or the program is considered the same. Student in this complex scenario here belongs to two different classes. An administrator wants to combine the exam marks for both classes, midterm and final exams, while also taking the classwork into the consideration. So the report criteria looks somewhat like below, where we have the two classes, full-time HIFS first period FP and full-time HIFS second period SP. And the terms are different for the first period and the second period, but in the first term we have two exams which are both the midterm exams, and the second one is the second period and the final exams for the second period. Now these are two different classes, yet we can still combine them and generate the progress report for the overall class. So let's see how we can do that here. So up here again, I'm going to type my report's name. And earlier we selected only one class, which is the full-time HIFS FP. Now I'm going to add another class here and select the second period, which is the first period, second period, so two classes now. And so now we're going to have two groups. So in the first group, I'm just still going to keep the midterm. and select my term from the 4th to 8th, in which I have some dummy data, and again the exam out of 25 and the classwork out of 20. And here I'm selecting the midterm exam for the first period and midterm exam for the second period. So the second period midterm exam belongs to the full-time HIFS SP, which is the second class, and the midterm exam first period, this exam belongs to the class 1, which is the full-time HIFS FP. Now I'm going to add another exam group here, and I'm going to call it final exam, and select the term. And for this term, the exam weight, I'm making it 30 so that it all totals up to 100. And here I'm going to add the first period final exam and the second period's final exam. So now I have 2 exams in the group 2 and 2 exams in the group 1, and both are coming from the 2 different classes. And again, for the notes, I'm going to drop something again back from my clipboard. Saves a little bit of time to generate the report. Now this free text and the notes could be anything from anything that you would like to drop on the report card. So once I'm done, I'm just going to click on the view report, and again all these criteria can be managed. You can check and check as to what you want to include on the report card. So click on the view report, and now we have a much more complex report. I'm just going to click again on the print current to see the report in full motion here. Now the whole page got filled up here, and we got the progress report, which includes the midterm, the first period, the second period, so 2 exam marks combined for the first from the first class first exam and second class second exam, which again are both the midterm, and same goes for the final exam. So 2 exams from 2 final exams combiningly, one coming from the first class, second coming from the second class, and the average up here. Now in a normal scenario or a happy path, you will not end up into this complex scenario here, but if you ever do have to combine the 2 different classes and generate one combined progress report from 2 different classes, then the Addin solution is still able to accommodate that need for you here. Now in most examples, we clicked on the print current. So instead of clicking on the print current, when you click on the print all, at the very bottom last pages, so the report cards get generated for all the students. But the last 2 pages is what I wanted to explain here. The last to second page is the summary report, which gives you the overall marks for a particular student sorted from the highest to lowest, so that way you know who is the topper in the class easily. So this report does that for you. Now the last page is nothing but the criteria that you have selected to generate this progress report. Since we don't save these report in a Addin solution anywhere and they are generated in real time, we throw this last page for your convenience so that you can save the report as a PDF, and in future when you refer to it, you know what criteria were selected to generate this report. Now let's look at the last scenario where an administrator would like to report on the monthly progress for the classwork only. An administrator is required to add an exams and the subjects right from the beginning in order for him to be or her to be able to generate this report. So the criteria for this report or for this scenario would be the class of your choice, the term, and then the classwork out of could be any weight that you would like to drop, and 1 or 2 exams that you would like to include, in which from where we will be fetching the subjects to report on the classwork. So let's generate the weekly progress report. So I already named the report to a weekly progress report, and I'm selecting my class, and I'm just going to name weekly progress in my exam group, and I'm selecting my February 4th until the 8th, where I have some dummy data for me to report on the weekly classwork or the progress report. Since I'm not including the exam, I'm excluding the exam out of here, and I'm only including the classwork out of 50, and I'm including the first or the midterm exam if I'm reporting based on within that term. And here I can X out the second exam, and any note that I have in my clipboard, I'm just put it on. And the free flow text, and I'm just going to click on the view report. Now, since I have opted out the exam out of, I'm only reporting on the classwork, and that's going to give me how my classes or the students are doing on their classwork. So here we go. I'm just going to click on the print current again, and here we have reported the weekly progress report based on the classwork only. So we got our subjects that were fetched from the exam that we included, and the exam or the weight out of 50, and then final marks also out of 50, the same, and the overall percentage out of 100. So a student has 85%, which is a good indication that the student is progressing well in his classwork. So this is how you can generate the progress report out of the same report that we have there for you.